The story of Prophet Yusuf, Joseph, peace be upon him, and the wife of Al-Aziz, known in history as Zulaikha. Imagine a young man whose beauty was so extraordinary that people could hardly believe he was human. A prophet chosen by Allah, gifted with wisdom, patience, and unmatched character. Yet his greatest test would not come from poverty or war. It would come from temptation. The story begins with Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him, the beloved son of Prophet Jacob, peace be upon him. One night, Yusuf saw an amazing dream. He saw 11 stars, the sun, and the moon prostrating before him. When he told his father about the dream, Prophet Yaqub immediately realized that it carried a special message from Allah. He lovingly advised his son not to tell the dream to his brothers because he feared they might become jealous. His father's concern proved true. Yusuf's brothers were already jealous because their father loved Yusuf and his younger brother Binyamin more than the others. Instead of accepting Allah's wisdom, jealousy consumed their hearts. They secretly planned to remove Yusuf from their lives. At first, some of them suggested killing him, but one brother proposed throwing him into a deep well instead, hoping that passing travelers would find him. They convinced their father to allow Yusuf to accompany them on a journey. Although Prophet Yaqub felt uneasy, he eventually agreed. Once they reached the wilderness, they carried out their cruel plan. They stripped Yusuf of his shirt and threw the innocent young boy into a dark, lonely well. Then they returned home at night with fake tears and presented Yusuf's shirt stained with false blood, claiming that a wolf had eaten him. But Allah had already revealed to Yusuf while he was in the well that one day he would inform his brothers of what they had done. Soon afterward, a caravan passed by. When one of the travelers lowered his bucket into the well, he was astonished to find a young boy instead of water. The caravan secretly took Yusuf with them and eventually sold him in Egypt as a slave for only a few silver coins. In Egypt, Yusuf was purchased by a powerful government official whom the Qur'an calls Al-Aziz. He instructed his wife to treat Yusuf kindly, hoping that he might benefit them or even become like a son to them. Allah caused Yusuf to grow into a man of remarkable beauty, wisdom, intelligence, and noble character. As the years passed, the wife of Al-Aziz became deeply attracted to Yusuf. The Qur'an does not mention her name. The name Zulaikha became famous through later historical and literary traditions, not through the Qur'an itself. One day, when they were alone inside the palace, she locked every door and attempted to seduce Yusuf. She called him toward herself, but Yusuf immediately sought refuge with Allah and replied that his master had treated him well and that wrongdoers never succeed. Allah protected his prophet from falling into sin. Yusuf ran toward the exit while the woman chased him. As he reached the door, she grabbed his shirt from behind, tearing it. At that very moment, her husband unexpectedly entered. Realizing she had been caught, she immediately reversed the accusation and claimed that Yusuf had tried to harm her. Allah caused a member of her household to suggest a simple test. If Yusuf's shirt had been torn from the front, then the woman was telling the truth. But if it had been torn from the back, then Yusuf was innocent, and she had lied. When Al-Aziz examined the shirt, he found that it was torn from the back. The truth became clear. Yusuf was innocent. Although the truth had been established, the matter soon spread throughout the city. The women of Egypt began gossiping about the wife of Al-Aziz, mocking her for becoming infatuated with her own servant. Feeling humiliated, she decided to prove that Yusuf's beauty was beyond imagination. She invited the noble women of the city to a banquet. She gave each of them a knife and fruit to cut. Then she instructed Yusuf to enter the room. The moment the women saw him, they were overwhelmed by his appearance. Without realizing it, they cut their own hands while staring at him and exclaimed, "This is not a human being. This is none other than a noble angel." The Qur'an records this reaction, showing how extraordinary Yusuf's appearance was. The wife of Al-Aziz then openly admitted before them that this was the man for whom they had criticized her. She even declared that if Yusuf refused her command again, he would certainly be imprisoned. Faced with constant temptation, Yusuf raised one of the most beautiful prayers mentioned in the Qur'an. He said, "My lord, prison is dearer to me than what they invite me to. Unless you turn their plot away from me, I may incline toward them and become among the ignorant." Allah accepted his prayer. Instead of allowing his prophet to fall into sin, he allowed Yusuf to be imprisoned unjustly. Sometimes Allah saves his righteous servants not by removing hardship, but by protecting their faith through hardship. Inside prison, Yusuf continued calling people to worship Allah alone. Two fellow prisoners each saw mysterious dreams. Before interpreting them, Yusuf first taught them about Tawheed and explained that only Allah deserves worship. Then he interpreted their dreams accurately. One prisoner would be released and serve the king again, while the other would be executed. Exactly as Allah revealed, both interpretations came true. Years later, the king of Egypt saw a strange dream involving 7 fat cows being eaten by 7 lean cows, and 7 green ears of grain, along with 7 dry ones. None of the royal advisors could explain it. The former prisoner suddenly remembered Yusuf and informed the king about him. Yusuf interpreted the dream as 7 years of abundant harvest, followed by 7 years of severe famine, advising that grain should be carefully stored during the good years. The king was deeply impressed and ordered Yusuf's release, but Yusuf refused to leave prison until his innocence had been publicly established. The king investigated the case and questioned the women who had been present at the banquet. They all admitted that Yusuf had done nothing wrong. Finally, the wife of Al-Aziz herself confessed the truth, saying that she had tried to seduce Yusuf and that Yusuf had always been truthful. Only after his innocence had been officially declared did Yusuf leave prison with honor. The king appointed him over the storehouses of Egypt because of his knowledge, honesty, and trustworthiness. During the years of famine, people from surrounding lands came to Egypt seeking food, including Yusuf's own brothers. They stood before him without recognizing him, while Yusuf recognized them immediately. Through a series of wise and patient events guided by Allah, Yusuf eventually brought his younger brother Binyamin to Egypt. Later, his brothers realized that the powerful minister standing before them was actually the brother they had betrayed years earlier. Filled with shame, they admitted their sins. Instead of seeking revenge, Yusuf forgave them, saying, "No blame will there be upon you today. May Allah forgive you." Yusuf then sent his shirt back to his father. When Prophet Yaqub placed the shirt over his face, Allah restored his eyesight. Soon afterward, the entire family traveled to Egypt. Yusuf welcomed his parents with great honor. His parents and brothers respectfully bowed in the customary greeting of that era, and Yusuf realized that the dream he had seen in childhood had finally come true. Allah had fulfilled his promise exactly as he had shown him many years before. As for what many people call the story of Yusuf and Zulaikha after these events, including claims that she later repented or married Yusuf, none of these details are mentioned in the Qur'an. Some later historical books and classical commentaries mention such reports, but they are not established with the same certainty as the Qur'anic account. Therefore, Muslims should distinguish clearly between what Allah revealed in the Qur'an and what later historical traditions narrate. The story of Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him, is ultimately not a love story. It is a story of unwavering faith, patience during hardship, forgiveness after betrayal, purity in the face of temptation, trust in Allah's plan, and the certainty that those who remain obedient to Allah will never lose His help. Every trial Yusuf faced eventually became the very means through which Allah elevated him in this world and prepared for him an even greater reward in the hereafter.